Every family gathering is supposed to feel like home. Thanksgiving is meant to be the one day of the year where love, laughter, and gratitude fill the air. But for Brianna Campbell, it became the day her family broke her heart. Brianna wasn't just any woman, she was a self-made tech millionaire. From nothing, she built everything. Late nights, endless coding, constant rejection, and then finally, success. Her name became a quiet whisper in the business world, and her fortune grew larger than she had ever dared to dream. She bought her dream estate, worth over $6 million. It wasn't just a house, it was proof of her journey, of every sacrifice she had ever made. And this year, Thanksgiving was supposed to be different. She wanted her parents to see the life she had built, the home she had made, the success she had earned. For once, she wanted to feel like their pride, not their disappointment. So she polished her silverware, laid out the finest china, and planned a menu that could make a magazine cover. She imagined her family's faces as they walked through her doors. She imagined her mother's tears of joy, her father's proud smile, her sister finally admitting, "You did it, Brianna." But what she got instead was a single text message. A message that shattered her. Her parents told her they wouldn't be coming. Instead, they would be celebrating Thanksgiving with her sister, who had the so-called perfect family. A husband, 2 kids, a picture-perfect life that fit into their parents' idea of what family should look like. Brianna, despite her millions, despite her achievements, despite her mansion, was left out. And in that moment, she realized something sharp, something cruel. To her parents, she wasn't enough. Her money didn't matter. Her success didn't matter. Her seat at their table no longer existed. She sat there, holding her phone, staring at the message as tears blurred her vision. She whispered to herself, "So I'm not family anymore." It wasn't the money that hurt, it was the rejection. The truth that no matter what she accomplished, they would always choose her sister over her. For a moment, she felt crushed. For a moment, she thought maybe she should beg for a seat, call them, plead with them to reconsider. But then, something inside her shifted. Why should she beg for a seat at a table that was never meant for her? Why should she shrink herself just to fit into their definition of family? In that moment, Brianna made a decision that would change everything. She would not ask. She would not cry. She would not sit in silence. Instead, she would build her own table. She would create her own Thanksgiving. And it would be bigger, brighter, and more unforgettable than anything her family could ever imagine. Because sometimes, revenge isn't loud. Sometimes, it's quiet. Sometimes, it's simply living so well that the people who doubted you can never ignore you again. This is the story of the Thanksgiving that shook everyone. The night Brianna Campbell turned heartbreak into power. And the revenge that cost her $6.2 million, yet was worth every single cent. Brianna sat alone at her dining table that night. The table she had carefully decorated, the silverware she had polished, the place cards she had written with love. All of it sat untouched, waiting for people who would never arrive. The silence of the house was deafening. No laughter, no clinking of glasses, no warmth of family, only the echo of rejection. She pushed her chair back, stood up, and looked around her grand estate. It was beautiful, every corner reflected her success. But without love, without people who cared, it felt hollow. Her eyes fell on a framed picture on the mantel. It was from years ago, her parents, and her sister smiling at a picnic. Back when things felt normal. Back when she believed she belonged. Her chest tightened as she whispered, "Why am I never enough?" But then, almost instantly, a new thought burned its way through her grief. Maybe I don't need to be enough for them. Her hands trembled, not with sadness anymore, but with determination. If her parents and her sister wanted to exclude her, let them. But she wouldn't sit here crying over their choice. No, she would rise above it. And she knew exactly how. Thanksgiving wasn't going to be about them. It was going to be about her. Her life. Her success. Her definition of family. She walked through the halls of her estate, her heels clicking against the marble floor, the sound echoing like a battle drum. With every step, her resolve grew stronger. She pulled out her phone and began dialing. Friends, business partners, old mentors, People who had believed in her when her own family did not. She invited them all, not to just any dinner, but to the grandest Thanksgiving celebration her city had ever seen. 32 guests in total. 32 people who mattered. 32 seats at her table, filled with laughter, respect, and gratitude. No empty chairs. No rejection. Only chosen family. She would host them in her estate, a home so magnificent it could rival a palace. The chandeliers would glitter. The wine would flow endlessly. And the food, oh, the food, would be prepared by the best chefs money could hire. If her parents believed her sister's family was perfect, she would show them what perfection really looked like. But this wasn't just about showing off. It was about reclaiming her dignity. It was about proving, to herself more than anyone, that she didn't need their approval to feel whole. She was done chasing their acceptance. She was done begging for scraps of love. Instead, she would build a feast so unforgettable that even those who abandoned her would hear about it. Her revenge wouldn't be cruel words or petty fights. It would be a Thanksgiving so grand that silence would no longer be an option. They would have to notice her. They would have to see what they lost. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying others, it's showing them you never needed them to begin with. And Brianna was ready to prove it. The very next morning, Brianna woke up with fire in her veins. The pain of last night hadn't vanished, but it had transformed. It had turned into fuel. She slipped on her robe, poured herself a cup of coffee, and sat by the giant glass windows overlooking her estate. The sun was rising, painting her world in gold. And in that moment, she smiled to herself. This Thanksgiving, she whispered, is going to be mine. She opened her laptop and began to plan. Every detail mattered. The guest list, the food, the entertainment, the decor. Nothing would be ordinary. It had to be unforgettable. It had to scream dignity, success, and power. She hired a team of event planners, the kind who usually worked celebrity weddings. She gave them one instruction: I don't want big. I want unforgettable. They nodded, already sensing the challenge. The first step was the guest list. 32 people, not random acquaintances, but the people who had shaped her life. Her college professor, who once told her she was brilliant. Her first investor, who believed in her idea when banks laughed in her face. Her loyal assistant, who stuck by her through sleepless nights. Even her childhood best friend, who had never judged her for being different. These were her people, not the family who excluded her, but the family she chose. Next came the food. Brianna didn't want frozen turkeys or reheated stuffing. She wanted a feast that would be remembered for decades. She booked 3 world-class chefs, each specializing in a different cuisine. Together, they crafted a menu that blended tradition with extravagance. There would be turkey, yes, but infused with truffle butter and slow-roasted to perfection. There would be cranberry sauce, but paired with aged red wine reductions. There would be rolls, freshly baked with herbs grown in her own garden. And for dessert, a pumpkin pie so delicate it looked like art, topped with edible gold. The drinks had their own plan. Rare wines flown in from France. Craft cocktails designed for each guest. Even the water, sparkling and infused with fruit, was carefully selected. But Brianna didn't stop there. Thanksgiving wasn't just about food, it was about atmosphere. She wanted her estate to feel magical. She hired a designer to fill the halls with autumn colors: burnt orange, deep red, golden yellow. Candles lined the walkways. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above. Every chair was covered in velvet. Every plate shone with silver and gold. She even had musicians hired, a string quartet to play softly during dinner, and a jazz band for the after-party. And at the very center of it all, the dining table stretched long and elegant, enough to seat every single one of her 32 chosen guests. She had name cards handwritten in calligraphy. Each one carried not just a name, but a message of gratitude from Brianna herself. As she walked through the preparations, she felt her chest swell with something powerful. For once, she wasn't crying over who rejected her. She was celebrating the ones who had stayed. Her table wouldn't be filled with people who judged her. It would be filled with people who respected her. People who saw her worth when her own parents didn't. Every dollar she spent, every hour she invested, it wasn't just extravagance. It was healing. It was reclaiming her story. Her revenge wasn't going to be bitter. It was going to be beautiful. And she knew, deep down, that the world would notice. Her family would hear about it. They would see the pictures. They would know she had built something greater than what they had chosen. They would know that by excluding her, they hadn't broken her. They had created the strongest version of her. And this Thanksgiving would prove it. The night finally arrived. Thanksgiving at Brianna Campbell's estate. From the outside, the mansion glowed like a jewel in the darkness. Lanterns lined the driveway, casting a warm golden light. Valet attendants stood ready to welcome the guests. The sound of violins floated through the air before anyone even stepped inside. One by one, the guests arrived. Luxury cars pulled up the driveway. Doors opened. Laughter echoed. Each guest walked up the grand staircase and into a world they had never seen before. The foyer was breathtaking. Tall ceilings draped with garlands of autumn leaves. Candles flickering against marble walls. A scent of roasted herbs and cinnamon filled the air. It felt like stepping into a dream. Brianna stood at the entrance, dressed in an elegant gown of deep burgundy silk. She looked radiant, confident, unshakable. Her smile was genuine as she greeted each guest with warmth. She hugged her old mentor. She shook hands with her investors. She laughed with her friends. Every greeting reminded her, "These are my people." As the clock struck 7, she led them all into the dining hall. Gasps filled the room. The table stretched endlessly, covered in velvet. Each seat gleamed with silver and crystal. Each plate was perfectly placed. And at the center of every name card was a handwritten note of gratitude from Brianna herself. The guests were stunned. "This is extraordinary," whispered one. "I've never seen anything like it," said another. Brianna simply smiled, her heart swelling with pride. The music shifted softly. The string quartet began to play. The chefs rolled out the first course. Delicate starters that looked more like art than food. Wine was poured into crystal glasses. Laughter began to fill the room. For the first time in years, Brianna felt what family was supposed to feel like. Not judgment, not rejection, but love, acceptance, gratitude. She looked around at the 32 faces glowing in the candlelight. Every single one of them had chosen to be here. Every single one of them mattered. And for the first time, she didn't miss her parents. She didn't long for her sister's approval. Because she finally understood, family isn't always blood. Family is who shows up for you. The courses kept coming. Golden roasted turkey, carved at the table. Truffle butter melting into its skin. Herbed rolls steaming as they were passed around. Cranberry sauces rich and deep. Dishes that tasted like luxury and comfort all at once. Glasses clinked together as toasts were made. To Brianna, one friend shouted. "For reminding us what Thanksgiving is all about," said another. The room erupted in cheers. Brianna raised her own glass, her voice steady yet emotional. "Tonight isn't about money. It isn't about appearances. It's about gratitude, for the people who never left my side. This is my family, and I'm honored to have you here at my table." The guests clapped, some even teared up. The moment was real, raw, unforgettable. As the night carried on, music filled the halls. The jazz band took over, filling the room with energy. Guests danced in the grand living room. Children of her friends laughed and played, their joy echoing through the mansion. Every corner of the estate pulsed with life. And Brianna, she stood in the middle of it all, watching, smiling. Her revenge wasn't cruel. It wasn't angry. It was this, happiness. Pure, undeniable happiness. And deep down, she knew the message would spread. Her parents would hear about it. Her sister would see the photos. They would know what they missed. They would know what they threw away. And Brianna wouldn't even have to say a word. The next morning, the mansion was quiet. The last of the candles had burned low. Crystal glasses sat empty on the velvet tablecloths. The echoes of laughter lingered in the air like perfume. Brianna walked through the dining hall, barefoot, holding a cup of coffee. Her heart was full. She hadn't just hosted a dinner, she had created a memory. A statement. And she knew the world beyond these walls would soon know. Because she had hired photographers. Discreet professionals who captured every detail. The glowing chandeliers. The endless feast. The smiles on every guest's face. And of course, her standing at the head of the table, radiant, confident, unstoppable. By noon, the photos were online. Her guests had shared them. Friends reposted them. Investors tagged her with admiration. The images spread like wildfire. Her Thanksgiving was everywhere. Most luxurious dinner of the season. Redefining family at $6.2 million feast. Brianna Campbell's legendary Thanksgiving. Comments poured in. Wow, she's living the dream. This is what family should be. She turned rejection into power. And soon, her parents saw it. Her mother was the first. Sitting in her suburban kitchen, scrolling on her phone. At first, she thought it was some magazine article. Then she saw the name. Brianna. Her daughter. The daughter she had left out of Thanksgiving. Her chest tightened. She clicked through the photos. Her daughter's mansion. Her daughter's success. Her daughter's happiness. A happiness she had no part in. Her father saw next. His jaw clenched as he watched the video snippets. His daughter, standing before 32 guests, toasting to love and gratitude. The applause, the music, the grandeur. He set his phone down, silent, ashamed. But the hardest hit was her sister, Claire. Claire had always been the star. The golden child. The one who got everything. But now she saw Brianna shining brighter than she ever could. Claire zoomed into the photos. The gown. The mansion. The guests who adored her. The feast worth millions. And most of all, the look in Brianna's eyes. Strength. Peace. Triumph. Claire slammed her phone down. Her jealousy burned hot. How could Brianna, the one they excluded, be the one who won? Back at the mansion, Brianna sat on her balcony, sipping champagne. She had seen the articles. She had seen the shares. She knew her family had, too. But she didn't care. She hadn't done this to hurt them. She hadn't done this to beg for their love. She had done it for herself. To prove that she was whole. To prove that she could build a life more beautiful than their rejection. Her $6.2 million wasn't just money. It was a message. A message carved into history. You can exclude me. You can doubt me. But you will never break me. And for the first time, she felt free. 3 days later, Brianna's phone buzzed. The name on the screen made her pause. It was her mother. For a moment, she almost let it go to voicemail. But something inside her said, pick up. Hello. Her voice was calm, steady. Brianna, her mother said softly. There was a tremble in her tone. I saw your Thanksgiving. Brianna stayed silent. She let the words hang. It was beautiful, her mother continued. You looked happy. Everyone looked so happy. Brianna's lips curled into the faintest smile. Happy. Yes, she had been happy. But not because of her mother. Not because of her family. Then came the words her mother never thought she'd say. I think we made a mistake. We should have invited you. We should have. Brianna cut her off. No, you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. Her mother was silent. The truth stung. You chose to exclude me. You chose to pretend I didn't belong. And that's fine, Brianna said, her voice steady, unwavering. Because I learned something. I don't need your seat at the table. I can build my own. Her mother's voice cracked. Brianna, please. But Brianna didn't let her finish. I'm not angry anymore. I don't hate you. But don't call me now that you've seen what I can do without you. I'm not your backup plan. I never was. And then, with a quiet breath, she ended the call. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it was her father. Then her sister. Messages poured in. We're proud of you. Can we talk? You've done so well for yourself. Let's make things right. Brianna scrolled through them all, expression unreadable. Years ago, she would have cried. Begged. Answered every message. But not now. She simply set the phone down. Walked into her living room. And turned up the music. Her guests from Thanksgiving had already begun planning the next gathering. They wanted to return. To celebrate again. To keep this new family alive. And Brianna smiled. This was her life now. Full, whole, without needing the people who once left her behind. Her revenge had been silent. Not a scream, not a fight, but a life so radiant, it spoke louder than anything she could ever say. It was a week later when the knock came. A heavy, deliberate knock at the front door of the estate. Brianna's house manager opened it, and there they stood. Her parents. Her sister. All three, dressed neatly, faces tense. Brianna walked into the foyer, calm as ever. She didn't rush. She didn't stumble. She simply stood tall, her silk robe flowing around her like armor. "Brianna," her father began, forcing a smile. "We thought, maybe we could talk. Face to face." Her sister stepped forward. "You shouldn't have shut us out. We're family. We've always been family." Brianna tilted her head, her eyes cool, unwavering. "Family," she repeated softly. "Family doesn't disappear when it's inconvenient. Family doesn't exclude. Family doesn't betray." Claire's face tightened. "You're being dramatic. We just thought." "No," Brianna cut her off. "You didn't think. You decided. You decided I wasn't worth sitting at your table. And now you've seen I can build my own, suddenly, you remember I exist." Her mother's eyes glistened. "We were wrong. We see that now. Please, Brianna, let's start over." For a long moment, Brianna said nothing. The silence stretched. The marble floors reflected their anxious faces. Then, slowly, she spoke. "I don't hate you. I don't even resent you anymore. But I don't trust you. And trust is the one thing you can't buy back. Not with apologies. Not with tears." Her father's jaw clenched. "So that's it. You're just cutting us off." Brianna's smile was faint, almost tender. "No, you cut yourselves off. I just learned to live without you." The words fell heavy in the air. Her sister looked furious, but her parents looked broken. Brianna stepped back, her hand resting lightly on the door. "This house has no room for ghosts from the past. My family now is the one I choose. The people who show up. Who stay. Who love me without conditions." Her voice lowered, calm but final. "You had your chance. You lost it." And with that, she closed the door. On the other side, silence. No more arguments. No more excuses. Just the sound of footsteps retreating down the stone steps. Inside, Brianna exhaled. She felt no guilt. No regret. Only peace. Her revenge hadn't been about destroying them. It had been about freeing herself. And she had. Completely. That Thanksgiving would be remembered forever. Not as the day her family abandoned her. But as the day she rose. And proved that family isn't the blood you're born with. It's the love you choose. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It isn't cruel words. It isn't slamming doors or screaming, "I told you so." Sometimes, the quietest revenge is simply living better. Choosing peace when they chose chaos. Building love when they gave you rejection. Creating family where they gave you none. Brianna didn't destroy her parents. She didn't humiliate her sister. She didn't even need to. Her life, her happiness, was the answer. Every smile at her table. Every laugh that echoed through her $6.2 million estate. Every toast raised to gratitude and resilience. That was her revenge. That was her victory. That was her freedom. Because at the end of the day, family isn't about blood. It isn't about tradition. It isn't about obligation. Family is about who shows up. Who stands by you. Who chooses you, again and again. And sometimes, the greatest revenge against betrayal is proving that you were never broken. That you were always enough. That you built a table so grand. The ones who left you behind will never forget what they lost. This is Brianna's story. But maybe it's yours, too.